So last week I had mentioned that I think some of the people who are watching the BBC's Beyond the Abbey and who are also watching what's happening in the election year may need a little bit of guidance for dealing with, the social discourse that's going on. So last week I think I mentioned when we see people doing things that we don't consider proper, instead of developing a negative attitude and anger and judgment and so on, to think, this is what I look like when I act that way. Okay? So I think, when we look at the way some of the candidates are speaking, then first of all, just the lack of common courtesy, insults, name-calling, flying around. And how many of us insult other people to their face, speaking harshly to them, calling them names? Yeah? Or even behind their back, speaking harshly, calling them names. So, this is kind of common in society, isn't it? Yeah? And yet when you see it on TV, for people who want to hold the highest office in the country, of the country that's supposedly the superpower, looking like that, then our respect really plummets. So similarly, when we speak to other people in that way, other people certainly aren't going to respect us. Yeah? When we see the lies that, are also being thrown around by some of these candidates, statements made that are clear exaggerations, clearly not the truth, but are repeated again and again, we see the damage that it causes, because even though those lies are reputed, still people hear them and it puts some kind of seed in their mind. Yeah? So if we look at our speech, when we exaggerate, when we lie about things, then how are we damaging other people? Yeah. And, what are other people going to think of us if we lie? I mean, we're not going to have crowds of people cheering us on. We're going to have crowds of people running away from us because they don't trust us. Yeah? I mean, lying is the big way to break trust, isn't it? And then words that are very divisive, divisive speech, that are clearly prejudicial against certain religions, against certain ethnic groups, against certain kinds of people, again, create so much disharmony. They've seen that there's been, in the last few months, a rise in the number of hate crimes and a rise in the number of kind of extremist, right-wing extremist organizations. And I think a lot of that is due to the kind of things that some of these candidates are saying about other people. Yeah? I mean, we had an incident in Spokane just last week. Somebody broke into the Sikh temple and trashed it. Yeah? So, of course, the community denounces that kind of behavior. And the guy did it because he thought it was a mosque. He thought it was a mosque and it must be affiliated with ISIS. Which is like totally wrong. It wasn't even a Muslim house of worship. So, but this kind of speech, just it invigorates hatred, prejudice. I mean, this is basically how the Nazi regime got going in Germany, was a lot of this kind of hate speech, and then people hear it enough, and then, they jump on board the ship. So it's important to look then at our own prejudices, because it's not like we're entirely prejudice-free. We may not be prejudiced against the same groups of people that these people are talking about, but we have prejudices of our own, okay? And certain ways, even if we're not that prejudiced, by the way we group people together, and make generalizations, So I think we have to be careful about that too, because just that way of speech is it's very divisive, creates a lot of disharmony. Okay, so if we look at and then the idle talk that's going on in these presidential debates, instead of talking about policy, talking about people's bodies, it's really rather disgraceful. And, so again, how do we use our speech? And do we just talk about nonsensical things, unrelated to whatever it is we're trying to do? So, to really use this, and when we watch these people, think, well, this is how I look, And when I just kind of go around and, treat people however, boss them around, then this is how I look when I do that. This is how I look when I speak that way. So I think this way of watching it is very helpful for, transforming a bad situation so that we can use it in our Dharma practice. At the same time, I'm not saying that we only use this situation to transform our Dharma practice. I also think that it's important that we speak out in a social context, as I'm doing right now, because this is going to go, on the web, to say that we don't think this kind of speech and we don't think this way of acting is appropriate or suitable or dignified or respectful. And so rather than criticize the people who do it, because we have to remember they have the Buddha nature, talk about this way of speaking and behaving, and let it, take a stand that we don't approve of, especially biased, prejudicial lies made about groups of people, because that is like beyond, So I think we have to say that publicly and stand up for, ethical conduct in our speech, as a society and as individuals, because the whole quality of our social discourse gets changed when people who are supposed to be the leaders act in this way. Then it gives everybody else permission to just mouth off whatever. And so I think that we have to even be more careful. We're certainly not little angels, are we? We're certainly not ideals, but we have to be more careful, and somehow try and set a good example.